First, and I always find this one interesting, how different generations look at their personal finances and combine them versus keep them separate. What did you find in terms of how different generations are either keeping their finances completely separate, which is a little bit of a foreign concept to me personally, versus keeping them entirely together?
Only 26% of Gen Zers and 33% of millennials completely combine their finances with their significant other. And we're talking here about people who are either married or living with a romantic partner.
Okay.
So only about 1 in 4 Gen Zers, 1 in 3 millennials. That compares to about half of Gen Xers and boomers. So there is a pretty big generational divide there.
Yeah, I find I fall into that 2/3 bucket. We do not completely combine. We each maintain our own separate bank accounts, but then also some joint accounts. What did you find in terms of attitudes and habits when it comes to keeping financial secrets, if you will, or not fully getting into their personal spending habits? I would assume if there's an attitude of keeping financial details separate, that perhaps keeping some of those secrets is also a different trend than what we've seen in previous generations.
Young adults are far and away the most likely to be keeping financial secrets. 63% of Gen Zers have committed some sort of financial infidelity against their romantic partner. So that's secret spending, secret debt, secret credit cards, secret bank accounts. It's only about half of millennials and only about 30% of Gen Xers and boomers. I think there is some crossover between these two topics here. I think that the desire for separate accounts goes hand in hand with hiding things. I think the fix here is communication and perhaps the yours, mine, and ours school of budgeting. I think it's fine to have some separate money and some joint money. In fact, a lot of people like the independence that fosters, but you need to agree on the parameters. You can't just be squirreling money away without the other person's knowledge.
Ted, what has our economy over the last couple of decades done to trends in terms of big milestones? So whether it's getting married or buying a home, what are you seeing in this younger generation versus previous generations when it comes to home ownership and marriage?
People are getting married much later. They're having kids later. They're often buying homes later. These are all important trends that are affecting Gen Zers and millennials. I actually think some of this relates to the desire for separate accounts and keeping the financial secrets. If you've been living on your own for a while and you have your own salary, it's hard to mesh that money personality with someone else's. So I think that's interesting. I also think the fact that more and more people are buying homes before they're married is another really interesting trend.
Yeah.
Realtor.com says 41% of 18 to 34-year-olds have bought a primary residence with someone they're not married to. I just think you need to be careful about that because, of course, a married couple can split up too, but divorce is a very organized process. If you're just dating somebody and you buy a house together, I'd be a little worried about what happens there. You need to be very clear about the mortgage, the deed, are you going to sell it and split the proceeds? Is somebody going to buy the other one out? This is a trend that makes me a little nervous.
Yeah, that does get a fair bit more complicated when there's no marriage in place. And that is a big number, 41% of 18 to 34-year-olds buying a primary residence with someone that they're not married to. Ted, when it comes to financial details, are you planning on rolling out a new dating app or something with this? Because you mentioned that a huge portion of Americans would want to know somebody's credit score before considering dating them.
Yeah, it is really interesting. There's so much crossover these days. In fact, there's this whole new school of financial therapists that are kind of part relationship counselor and part financial planner because this is important to people, especially young adults and actually women considerably more than men say that they're interested in knowing someone's credit score and that would really impact their romantic interest in dating that person. It's tricky. I mean, it's probably not a first date kind of topic, but it seems like it might be an early in the relationship topic for a lot of couples these days, at least the general parameters. Are you responsible with money? How do you feel about money? It feels like for some people this is really a deal breaker.
Just list your Social Security number on your dating app, I guess, and that would allow them to pull the credit report there. Just easy solution right there, huh?
Young adults share everything. I mean, I think that's another common thread in this conversation. I think that It is interesting how they keep financial secrets, but yet they share everything else. They share their credit score. They share their salary. That's something that comes up not just with romantic partners, but coworkers. That's something that young adults are far and away more likely than older adults to talk to their friends and their coworkers about how much money they make. Some of it, I think, is social media has broken down some of these taboos. But like we've said, maybe they've actually put up some walls in other areas where it's harder for people to mesh their money values with someone else's.
Ted Rossman from Bankrate, his article out on Bankrate.com, New Money Rules for Couples. You can take a look at it yourself. Ted, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.